They say be careful what you wish for. Most of the time, it's just a saying, something people throw around when a joke goes too far or luck turns sour. But sometimes, it's a warning. My friend Lita didn't think twice when she said it, laughing as she held up an old photo she found during a solo trip to a forgotten mountain village. The picture was faded, worn thin at the corners, the edges curled from damp air. But the man in it. He was beautiful. Striking in a way that didn't feel entirely real, the kind of face that doesn't age, doesn't belong to the world anymore. Lita smiled, dreamy-eyed. I wish someone like this would watch over me, she joked. You know, through thick and thin. We both laughed. It was harmless. Except it wasn't. Because after that day, someone did start watching her. And he looked exactly like the man in the photo. Lita only spent a weekend in that village. A sleepy place tucked between fog-covered hills, the kind of destination with no signal, no streetlights, and nothing to do except wander between mossy stone paths and listen to your own footsteps. She told me the photo wasn't framed or preserved, just wedged inside the cracked wall of an abandoned house, yellowed and curling at the corners, like it had been waiting for someone to find it. I saw the prettiest man I've ever seen, she said when she came back, laughing over coffee. He was in a photo, not real, but still. Total eye candy. Then she pulled it from her jacket pocket. Black and white. Slightly water-stained. But the face. There was something magnetic about him, clean-cut, classic, like someone straight out of an old movie. But sharper. More vivid. Too vivid, for something so old. He just feels protective, I guess, Lita said. Like he'd watch over you, you know. I didn't think much of it. Just one of those odd little travel souvenirs. She even pinned it on her corkboard, next to postcards, tickets, random notes. A few days later, she called me. Hey, weird question, she said, her voice light with amusement. Is it possible to see someone you've never met, everywhere? I thought she was joking. I laughed. But Lita wasn't upset. Not yet. In fact, she sounded delighted. She said she'd spotted someone earlier that day, on the train, sitting across from her, reading a book. Same face. Same charm. Just like the man in the photo. Then again, later that evening, she saw him across the street near the cafe. And again, walking through the park the next morning. She explained with joy that even though they were just doing each other business. And she doubted the man noticed her, she believed such occurrence is a good thing. Almost dreamily, she expressed the coincidence might lead to something sweet, like beautiful encounter like she wished for, and he showed up for that. She laughed to herself. It still felt like a harmless fantasy. But it wouldn't stay that way. Because the man in the photo kept appearing. Everywhere. Still silent. Still distant. But slowly, day by day. He started glance back at her. It started slowly. Barely noticeable, at first. Lita said he was always just across the street, standing by a lamp post, or pretending to check his phone. Same man. Tall. Neatly combed hair. Dark clothes. Handsome in the exact, uncanny way the photo had shown. He never approached. Never smiled. Just watched. She'd glance up from her seat at the cafe, and there he was, across the road. Then again at the train station. At the bookstore. The market. Always nearby. Always still, like a fixture she was just beginning to notice. One night, she sent me a string of blurry photos. Zoomed in. Shadows and streetlights. But you could see him. Just enough. The same face. Looks like him, right? She wrote. I think he's following me. I joked. Maybe the man in the photo came to life. She laughed back, but it wasn't the same. Her messages were shorter now. Her voice, thinner when we talked. I thought I liked it at first, she admitted. It felt sweet. Like some weird romantic movie. But now, it's too much. He's always there. Like he's waiting for something. She paused. Stopped to speak up what she's supposed to say next. It wasn't just that he was there. It was how the world changed when he was. Lita told me that every time she spotted him, just standing across the street, or sitting at the far end of the train platform, something felt off. The air got heavier. The light dimmed just a bit. And worst of all, time slowed down. Not metaphorically, she said. It actually feels slower. Like someone pressed pause on everything except him. She described it like walking through molasses, the way her steps felt heavier, sounds more muffled, the air harder to breathe. Even blinking seemed delayed. For the first 2 weeks, she tried to laugh it off. Maybe just anxiety, she assured herself. A moment later she blamed herself for being too obsessive to meet the man in the photo, so she kept noticing him. But then things began to change. She started losing focus. Leaving her phone in strange places. Forgetting what she was doing halfway through simple errands. Walking into a store and realizing she didn't remember why. It's like, he's leeching something out, she whispered during one late call. Her concentration, her energy. Her normal. She stopped going to the cafe she loved. Stopped riding the train. Even avoided her favorite bookstore. But it didn't matter. Because no matter how much she changed her route or shuffled her schedule, he was always there. Watching. Waiting. Smiling that same soft, empty smile. Now, what she wished for, was wrong. By the 3rd week, everything shifted. He stopped keeping his distance. Now, he was closer. Brazen. Confident. As if whatever line he'd been standing behind no longer mattered. Lita saw him standing just outside her office window, 5 stories up. Not climbing. Not floating. Just there, behind the glass. Smiling. The next day, he was sitting alone on a bench directly across from her apartment building. When she left for groceries, he was by the elevator. When she returned, he was across the hallway. Still. Watching. He never knocked. Never spoke. Never followed physically. But he was everywhere. And always, smiling. Not a warm smile. Not a real one. It was too wide. Too stiff. Like someone had read about how people smile and decided to try it out, without understanding why we do it. Like his face was wearing the smile, not feeling it. Lita told her coworkers. They didn't take it seriously. Girl, that's just a secret admirer, one said, laughing. Lucky you. Even when she showed them the blurry photos she'd managed to snap, they shrugged. That could be anyone, they said. So she went to the police. 3 times. 3 different reports. They sent patrol cars. Walked the area. And each time, nothing. No sign of him. No faces matching her description. No usable CCTV. Eventually, the officers stopped responding. Maybe it's just stress, one said flatly. Maybe you should take a break. But there was no break. Because then, the dreams started. Lita called me crying, voice hoarse, like she hadn't slept in days. I see him, she whispered. In my dreams. Always watching. Standing at the edge of every room like he's part of the furniture. No movement. Just, smiling. Like he's proud of me for being afraid. She said the dreams didn't feel like dreams. The rooms were always familiar. Real places she knew. Her bedroom. Her childhood kitchen. My apartment. I try to scream, she said. But my mouth won't open. My hands don't move. He just watches me struggle. And when I stop trying, he smiles bigger. I begged her to stay with me. Just for a while. But she refused. No, she said, voice low and shaking. I think I brought him with me. I think he heard me when I made that wish. I need to go back, to where I found the photo. We drove up to the mountain village in silence. The road coiled like a spine through mist-thick trees, and the fog hung low, dense and slow-moving, like it knew we were coming. Even the radio refused to work past a certain bend, hissing into static no matter the station. Lita sat curled in the passenger seat, clutching the photo like it might bite. When we arrived, the village looked even smaller than I remembered, as if it had aged and fast-forward since Lita's last visit. Roofs sagged heavier. The silence was heavier still. The air was colder than it should have been. We found the shrine easily, tucked behind a mossy path just off the main road. It wasn't much. A slanting wooden structure no taller than my waist. Cracked wood. Weather-stained prayer ribbons. Dead leaves piled at the base. Lita whispered and pointed to an abandoned house. The place where she found the photo. We stared at it. The place felt hollow. Like something had been waiting, and knew we were late. When we asked around about the photo, most villagers avoided eye contact. But one older woman, face lined like carved bark, stopped sweeping her porch when we showed it. Her eyes widened. Her grip on the broom faltered. With rough voice, she surprised someone found a photo of that man near the old house. We nodded and told her everything. She looked past us, toward the trees. Then stepped closer, dropping her voice. That house was meant for the lost. People who died far from home. Names forgotten. Bodies missing. Lita's hands were shaking as she pulled the photo from her coat pocket. The woman flinched. She told us that the man died in this village. Over 30 years ago. A tourist. Came alone. He fell from the cliffs during a storm. They never found his body. All they found was that picture, in a torn bag, soaked, but untouched. Who was he? The woman didn't answer. She only whispered, you shouldn't keep something like that. Some spirits, they listen too closely. And some wishes, they hold tighter than you expect. That night, we didn't stay at an inn. We walked to the edge of the village cemetery, where the fog pooled thickest and the trees grew crooked. We brought a candle. We brought the photo. Lita held it over the flame with trembling fingers. At first, nothing happened. Then the edges blackened. Curled. As the fire spread, the air changed. Colder. Heavier. The shadows around us felt like they leaned in. And just before the man's face burned away, his smile moved. It stretched. Just a little more. Too much. Like he was pleased. The paper crumpled to ash. No wind took it. It just fell. Lita didn't speak. Neither did I, but for the first time in weeks, she looked relieved. As we turned to walk away, I felt something brush my coat, cold and soft as a moth's wing. I didn't look back. Some things should stay lost. The next morning, Lita slept in. No nightmares. No eyes watching from the window. No figure standing in the corner of the room with that too wide smile. She looked lighter. Like something had been peeled off her shoulders, something heavy and unseen. Over the next few days, her voice steadied. The tension in her jaw faded. She laughed again, not the hollow kind, but the real kind, the one that reaches the eyes. She started walking outside without checking behind her. She stopped waking up at 3 a.m. gasping for breath. By the second week, it was like a fog had lifted from her life. The man, the watcher, was gone. She never said his name again. Never kept photos on display. She threw out the clothes she wore in that village, and deleted every picture from the trip. When I asked if she wanted to talk about it, she shook her head. Some things, she said, are better buried. And me? I kept thinking about the way his smile changed in the fire. How the ashes didn't blow away. How the wind never moved. Sometimes I wonder, what if the wish hadn't been burned? What if someone else finds a different photo? Another lost face, handsome and quiet, waiting to be seen again. So here's a warning. If you find something left behind, a photo, a trinket, a name carved where it shouldn't be, leave it. Don't take it home. Don't speak to it. And whatever you do, don't wish for it to watch over you. Because some things will. And they never blink.